Hi, this video is a summary and a review of the Jordan Peterson Discover Your Personality course. And so I really think understanding your personality and just really understanding these concepts can just enable you to live a much smoother and much less complicated life overall in terms of dealing with yourself and dealing with those around you, the people in your environment and people you meet, your community. And it's just a great tool to have, a great toolbox to unlock if you want to have a much smoother life. Now, the other reason is because, well, it's pretty much a test for myself. They say that by you being able to explain things, it means that you understand them. So if none of this makes sense, then I don't understand it. So hopefully it makes some sense, a little bit of sense, enough that I can say I sort of understand these things decently enough. So starting out with the introduction of the course, which is basically why bother taking this course. So why would you bother? So basically it's, as I said, this course and understanding this, your personality enables you to understand yourself better, and you just start to understand why you do the things you do and why you behave how you behave, and why is it easier to do some things and it's so hard to do other things. Like, if, for example, I'm an introvert, naturally an introvert, so I just am really, I struggle, and I'm not so bad anymore, but I'm not great at socializing. I'm awkward. I can't even smile. See? You see? I struggle to smile. I'm not great at small talk. It's not my thing. So that's hard for me. And I see other people, and they just come in and they're witty and they're clever with the jokes, and they're just so spontaneous, and they're just so smiley. They make everyone laugh. They're the life of the party. And I'm like, how do you do that? Just looking at them is draining. But it's also amazing to see how naturally these things come out for some people, and for others it's so hard, like for me. Yet for me it's so easy to be alone. I love to be alone, and a lot of people struggle with being alone. So it's easy for me. So by understanding your personality, you can understand why you are the way you are, and as I said, why it's easy to do some things and hard to do other things. And as a result, you also, if you understand those patterns within yourself, then you also understand if you understand the personality spectrum, you see yourself in a more empathetic way, and you're like, oh, I'm not broken, it's just my personality. It's also not to box yourself, and put limits on yourself. It's simply a tool to help you understand yourself better, to x-ray your life and understand why you are the way you are. And to not only that, but that also enables you to know what are your weak points, what are your strengths, what are your weak points, and what you should focus on, and the things that you could do if you want to improve certain things. So it's just all around a great deal to understand these things. And also it helps you understand others, obviously. So that way, after this course, I swear you're gonna be just looking at people differently. You sort of unlock this kaleidoscopic glasses to the world, to people, and you just see them differently. So for example, after this course, I just go out and meet someone, or just see someone doing whatever, and I'm like, oh, they are definitely really low on extroversion, lower than me. Or I see someone else, I don't know, just a random example, someone is dancing in the middle of the street and they're dancing really good, and maybe not the best example, but in that case I would be like, that person is really really good with their body, just dancing. This girl is probably high on openness to experience, and she's also really smiley, really confident, really assertive. So she's probably high on extroversion, and you see the world through these new glasses, and it helps you sort of read people, and that's so cool. You can get a glimpse without not even talking to them, but just by looking at them, experiencing how they are, you can get an idea of the sort of person that they are. Without this knowledge, you're like, oh, that person is life of the party. But what does that really mean? But when you know that being the life of the party is related to being high on extroversion, and you know what it means to be high in extroversion and what it means to be low in extroversion or an introvert, and you know what extroversion is beyond just being a people person, but it's actually positive emotion, then you can get a glimpse at who this person is even before you say a word to this total stranger. And well, that's so cool. It just makes everything easier, and it also makes it easier for you to not only navigate the world and the relationships in your life and the people you're going to meet, but it also helps you be more empathetic and be like, oh, this person is kind of a dick, but I mean, he doesn't want to be a dick. It's just his personality. He's really low in agreeableness. And if you pair that with with neuroticism, and then this guy is making a wreck at the store, asking for the CEO of Walmart, then when you see this person through these lenses, then you can find ways to deal with those situations better, because just as you know what gets them, just as you know what gets person high on neuroticism all up on their guard and all that stuff, you also know what can sort of soothe them, what can be some sort of relief for them, what are the things, how do you have to behave, and what things do you have to say if the person that you're dealing with is really disagreeable or really high in neuroticism. But I guess you get what I'm trying to say. And so, well, anyway, that's personality. Oh, well, now that leads us to the next part, which is what is personality actually? Personality is a solution to the complexity of the world. The world is going to throw problems at you left and right. That's just the way life is. And so your personality and the personalities that we all have, they are evolved solutions to the complexity of the world. So just for the sake of simplicity, an extroverted personality, an extroverted person is a solution to making friends, connecting with people, to being easier for you to be a leader because you're more assertive and you have more confidence. And so extroversion is ideal for that situation of connecting with people. Whereas an introverted person, that is not a great personality to have if you're trying to go to your boss and ask for a raise, especially if you're low on agreeableness. So, but being an introvert will be helpful in, for example, you don't need to be around people all the time. You can rely on yourself. So when we have no one else around, when all hell breaks loose, we will always have ourselves. And we're pretty good at being alone with ourselves. So when that situation, kicks in, you got this. When COVID hit and it was like, oh my God, we're locked, the lockdowns and no going out, whatever. I was like, what are you guys talking about? I've been in quarantine for the past 20 years. So, in that situation, I didn't struggle that much because I didn't even go out anyway. So, in that situation, in the case of another COVID, another lockdown, and you're introverted, you're like, oh, thank God now I don't have to leave by order of the government. That's great, So, well, anyway, that is personality, a solution to the complexity of the world and the problems that the world throws at you. And what else? Well, the next lecture 2 covers the big 5 personality traits, which you can think of it for simplicity as OCEAN, the acronym OCEAN. O, openness to experience, C for conscientiousness, E for extroversion, A for agreeableness, and N for neuroticism. And the big 5 personality theory was developed in the 90s, I believe, and it's a theory that the way it works is basically under 2 assumptions. The first one is that language has captured the essence of personality. Words and adjectives and just lexicon and just the language we speak has captured personality. That's the first assumption. The second one is that we can access the different personality traits or personality in general by asking questions. So, well, yeah, that's it. I don't know what other way to say it. It's just that the language we speak, the words we use, and the evolution of language up until now has captured our personalities. And then how do we access those personalities? That's the second assumption, by asking questions. So those are the two assumptions. And a way to, I guess, think of the, validity of the theory is, well, they did several studies, cross-cultural examination using the same model. They just translated the questions and used the lexicon and the language, obviously, of those different countries, and they ran the test again, the experiments, whatever, and they found that the model, the Big Five model, persisted. So even outside of the English language, and in other languages, when they redid these experiments, these tests, they found that the model, the Big Five model, persisted. So that speaks to its universality and to how this theory might have been, just something more than just a theory, but something that was actually discovered, not created. So yeah. I hope that makes sense. Now, that was lecture 2. Lecture 3 talks about extroversion, which I already talked about a bit. So extroversion is composed of enthusiasm and assertiveness. So if you're high in extroversion, you're pretty enthusiastic and you're more assertive. So, well, that's it. That's all there is to it. Another way to think of extroversion is as positive emotion. When you're high in extroversion, you just experience happiness at a greater degree, say. When you're in a high, that high hits harder for you. Your highs are higher than people who are not high in extroversion. So that's why probably extroverts really like to party. Because if I go to a party, I want to die. I feel drained in the first 5 minutes. And an extroverted is energized. The partying is they feel the high is higher, and therefore they're more likely to engage in reckless behavior and activities that are risky and that are favorable or pleasurable in the moment without thinking of the consequences. So people who are high in extroversion tend to engage in more risky behaviors and activities, like drugs and like casual sex. And yeah, why? Because they don't think as much of the future. They value the present more. And considering that the highs are higher, well, doing drugs and all that stuff is going to feel like a much higher high than someone who's low on extroversion. Whereas on the other hand, someone who is low in extroversion, which is pretty much an introvert, like me, doesn't feel these highs like the extrovert. And the introverts tend to value more the future than the present. It's totally opposite with the extroverted person. So yeah, you can think of extroversion as the tendency to feel positive emotion. What else? Well, that's it. So for lecture 4, we touch on neuroticism. So neuroticism is basically the opposite of extroversion in a sense, because you can think of neuroticism as the tendency to feel negative emotion. Neuroticism is composed of volatility, which is, you get irritated a bit more easily. You You're like touchy. You're like, don't get near. Don't touch me, or you're dead. So that's volatility. Withdrawal, that's the other one. Withdrawal is like you're in a situation of stress or whatever problem, and you may freeze, and you feel, you're more likely to feel anxious, you're more likely to feel overwhelmed, you're more self-conscious. That's withdrawal. And just as in extroversion, which is positive emotion, neuroticism, which again could be thought of as negative emotion, then someone high in neuroticism or negative emotion feels the lows lower. And it's the opposite from extroversion. Higher highs in extroversion, neuroticism, lower lows. So when something goes wrong and just things aren't going well, that thing is going to knock you down if you're high in neuroticism, more than someone who isn't. And basically, you can think of neuroticism also as a sort of mechanism to protect yourself against pain and suffering, which is kind of paradoxical, because neuroticism is about, being anxious and being on your guard and being observant of potential dangers, and just being more likely to think about what's going to go up, think about what has gone wrong, what's going wrong right now, and how things are probably going to go wrong in the future. And it's just a personality, it's the personality trait that involves a lot of anxiety and being self-conscious and all these things that they are not pleasant. And you're like, how is neuroticism a sort of protective or protection mechanism when everything about it sounds dreadful already? Well, that's paradoxical to me. But I would answer that by saying, so yes, being high in neuroticism is pretty unpleasant, but it can save you from dying. Because when you're high in neuroticism, you're more on your guard. You're more aware of your surroundings because you're looking out for the catastrophe. Whereas someone who isn't, he's all just like walking around happy at the world, smiling. That guy is not gonna be on with his guard up and just observant enough to realize that right behind him there's this creepy guy ready to mug him and take his stuff. And he's one of those scary, disagreeable ones that if you don't give the stuff, he has a weapon and he won't doubt on using it. So you're not going to notice that if you're low on neuroticism. Whereas you saw that guy 10 miles away. You saw the guy before you saw the guy. You saw the guy in your mind's eye, leaving his house, thinking to himself, another day, another nickel that I'm going to steal right now. And that guy left his house. You saw him walking the whole way until he came across you in the dark, and now he's walking behind you, and now you're the next prey. But no, you're not, because you're high in neuroticism. So you are ready to attack. You are ready to dart at the first sign of trouble. And so, well, in that case, neuroticism saved you from having to deal with that guy. Whereas the guy who's low on neuroticism, he just lost his stuff, and if he fought back or something, which probably he didn't if he is low on neuroticism, but if he did, he could die. People die like that, which is stupid. And so that's a reminder to myself, because I tend to walk a lot and I try to remind myself, don't fight, don't. Anyway, so that's neuroticism. In lecture 5, he covers agreeableness. So agreeableness is composed of the subtraits of politeness and, what was the other one? Compassion. So That's pretty self-explanatory. When you're high on agreeableness, you're more compassionate and more polite. But it's a double-edged sword. And this one, it's not really obvious, even if it sounds nice, you know, agreeable. That sounds nice. It's not that nice when taken to an extreme. If you're too agreeable, you're a pushover. You tend to be way too caring, way too nice, way too generous, way too considerate, and often at the expense of yourself. You're putting everyone else before you, and you are always on the back burner. That, holy cow, you are pretty burned now that you look at yourself in the mirror. But more often than not, it's too late. You're already burned. You're already bitter. You're already resentful. You're already, just hating the world and blaming the world because if only they wouldn't be here, I would not have been so kind, and it's their fault, whatever. Well, maybe not, but that's a possibility. And so it's not that nice to be agreeable, super agreeable. Whereas when you're disagreeable, that's also not too nice, because that can get messy. When you're disagreeable, you tend to be the stubborn kind, you tend to be callous, you're vengeful, you always put yourself before others, you put your needs before others. For example, people who are low on agreeableness earn more money. According to the course, according to Jordan, they earn more money. Why? Because they see all the other dudes and all the other guys and gals who are doing the same job as they are. But the disagreeable person is like, I need more money. The disagreeable person not going to say, oh, I should get another part-time job, or I should start selling cookies, or no. The disagreeable guy is going to be, hey, you boss, you're a really nice lady, I really like you, but I need to make more money. This is why. I do this for the company, I earn this much money for the company making these sales, and I sell more than the other dudes. I deserve a raise, and if you don't give me a raise, then I'm gonna get out of here. Oh, but just think about that for a second. Say I walk out the door right now because you refuse to give me a raise. Do you realize how much money you're actually going to lose? You're actually better off giving me a raise. That's going to be cheaper than if you lose me. No one can do the stuff I do. No one can make the sales the way I do. So you're letting go of a very valuable asset. You're letting go of a very valuable asset if you let me go. I suggest you don't, because if you do, I can go to the competition. I'm not threatening. I'm promising. So if you don't give me the raise, I'm out of here, and I'm going to make money for those guys, and they're going to be pretty happy to pay me what I'm asking and more. So I expect that for my next paycheck later. That's the disagreeable person. And, that can be pretty helpful, because you know how to make a case for yourself. You don't settle for less. And you just, yeah. But if you take it to the extreme and you're too disagreeable, that's number one, I think, predictor for incarceration. So if you're really extremely low on disagreeableness, you're likely in jail, whether you're a guy or a girl. So that's lecture 5. Lecture 6 talks about personality differences, which that lesson, that lecture is crazy. It was really something for me. I'll summarize it in the following. Men and women are not the same. These differences come from biology, from our biology, and they also come from society and culture. But Jordan advocates for biology over culture and society. Biology plays a bigger role in our personality differences. For example, on average, guys are more disagreeable than women. Also, on average, girls tend to be more orderly than men. Don't quote me on that one. I don't remember too much. But another one. Women tend to be higher in neuroticism than men. Men tend to be higher in, what was it? I don't remember, okay? But what I'm trying to say is that men are, oh yes, so there's this other very interesting thing, which is men and women are either interested in things or in people. If you're a woman, you're more likely, on average, interested in people. Look at the profession of being a nurse. What's the ratio of women nurses versus men nurses? There's way more girls. I know it because my job involves dealing with a bunch of medical staff, and they're just more nurses that are girls. Why? Because girls tend to be more interested in people. They tend to be more nurturing. I guess it's that maternal instinct. They tend to be more compassionate. Well, that's it. Now look at the profession of, for example, construction or engineering. There's usually way more guys. Actually, in construction and in other dangerous jobs, Jordan mentions a bunch of, just a lot of careers or occupations, and that are pretty dangerous. And I'm telling you, the percentage of men versus women in those occupations are just ridiculous. There's from 97 to 99% men are dominant in those areas, in those jobs, and there's very, very little women. For example, in, I don't know, just one that came to mind, trucking, guys that drive big trucks and carry merchandise, rarely will you see a woman doing that, right? And that's because of her personality differences between men and women. Another one that comes to mind is, you've heard of handyman. Have you ever heard of a handy woman? I have not. You might know a handy woman, but you can't deny that they're rare. Why? Because, well, guys are more interested in things naturally. So they always want to be fixing things. They always want to fix the sink. That's why that term exists, handyman. Another very important factor about this lecture is that there's been countries like, for example, Norway, Scandinavian countries. Those are the countries that have implemented the most, I guess, rules or regulations, whatever you want to call it, to enforce equality, or I think the word is egalitarianism, or equality, which that's what it means, I believe. And these countries that have pushed for a more equal society, it's crazy, but these countries are the ones that have those personality differences at a higher contrast, which is crazy. These countries are trying to make things more egalitarian. They're trying to make things more equal, yet their efforts are kind of being slapped by biology. because in those countries the differences are higher than in other countries who have not implemented egalitarian norms or rules or whatever. And that's just nuts. That's lecture 6. Lecture 7 is about conscientiousness, which is composed of industriousness, and orderliness. Industriousness is a weird word, which basically means that not only do you make plans, but you carry out your plans. If you're industrious, you don't waste that much time. You're not procrastinating as much. So that's industriousness. And orderliness, well, that's sounds like what it is. It's you like to keep things in order, you like to keep things tidy. You're bothered by mess, you're bothered by messy people. You always want things in their place. You have a routine, and you have systems to keep things clean. You're detail oriented, all those things. Going a little deeper into conscientiousness, it is the second best predictor of life success. The first one is IQ, and so if you're high on conscientiousness, your life will likely be smoother and just more successful, apparently. And oh my god. Holy shit. Sorry, I was just attacked by a cockroach. Well, I wasn't attacked. I attacked it. If you're pro cockroach, you can subscribe and unsubscribe now. Anyway, conscientiousness. So yes, it's the second best predictor for life success, involving, I guess, career, the aspect of your career and your finances. And that's pretty much what conscientiousness is. Now we go on to the last one, which is openness to experience. Which the subtraits of this one are aesthetics is one, and the other one is intellect. So what is openness to experience? It's basically, I think, how open you are to new experiences. It's associated with creativity, with artistic capabilities, I guess, artistic interest in abstract ideas, philosophical ideas, and you're interested in beauty. You're more likely to go out and be amazed at the beauty of nature and just see things that other people don't really see. And the other part is, the other subtrait is intellect, which is basically IQ, I think. I don't know. Which sucks, because when I did the personality test, I got 4. I got 4 on intellect. I know he says that IQ is not the same thing as intellect, but he makes it sound like it is, okay? And it sounds like it is. I guess I'm just really dumb. Or I don't know what it means, but I was a 4 on intellect. Wow. I was not surprised. In the sense that I always struggled with school. So that kind of made sense. But I don't know what it really means. Which is also really contradictory, because if intellect is related to being interested in abstract ideas and philosophy, that is a total contradiction, okay? Because I'm all about philosophy. If you talk to someone that knows me, everyone knows I like philosophy and I engage in these debates. And it's just confusing. So I don't know what intellect really means. I think it's pretty much associated to IQ, to how fast you can process information, to you being able to process more information at the same time, more variables at the same time. And what else? And that's pretty much it. Conclusion. I would rate this course 9.5. 9.5 because, well, there were some parts of the course where... So it's a pretty heavy loaded course. And Jordan doesn't make it easier at times because he sort of rambles to things that are sort of related to the lecture, whatever lecture it may be. But I feel that more time could have been spent on going over examples for, I don't know, how to deal with the world if you're high on neuroticism, or what can you do if you're high on neuroticism and you want to change that, or just go over more examples in general with each trait. That would have been nice, but I think more time could have been spent focusing on the actual traits, which he did, but maybe just more examples. Other than that, I mean, regardless of that, it's still a great course. It was a great idea for me to have gotten this course and have completed the thing. I took so long, I'm so embarrassed to say, so I won't say. Anyway, still 10 out of 10 recommend the course. It was a great course. Again, if you want to acquire a toolkit that will help you navigate the world, navigate your life problems better, with more efficiency, just understand why you are who you are, why you do the things you do, and also know how you can attack these problems better and what to do with your weaknesses, then you should definitely take this course. And if you want to learn, as I said, to navigate your relationships better, to be able to read people even before you talk to them, just by looking at them, how they behave, how they engage with others, you can have a huge head start in comparison to the average person, just because you have this toolkit. And so to me, this is just crucial information that everyone should know. Everyone should have access to this. Anyway, that's the summary and the review for this course. I really hope this was sort of helpful and insightful, and it sort of made sense. If it didn't, then that means I just don't get this as I thought I did, and all those notes were for nothing. Hopefully that's not the case, and that's it. Thank you for watching. Peace out.